I'm Kevin Groves, a Kemetic and Chaos Magic practitioner, founder of the KemeticTemple.uk and author with the Wolf and Hound Press. I have frequently for many years been speaking and doing various things at Children of Artemis events such as Witchfest and the Artemis Gathering, mostly all on subjects of Kemeticism, chaos magic, astral magic, sigil magic, cyber paganism, because I'm a geek at heart. So today I'm going to give you a couple of stories from my rehearsals for my tour that I had hoped to do this year on Egyptian storytelling, but with the everything that's kicking off now, I'm not sure whether that's going to go ahead. So we're a couple of months before the first show, so I'm still a little bit rehearsing. Now, as I understand it, the event today won't be a video transmission, it'll be audio only. So if you hear any odd sounds, it's probably me trying to add some ambience to the story. And one of these will be my sistrum, and the other, which I'm still learning to play, my shoulder harp. So let's see how this goes. As a bit of a background to why I'm doing Egyptian storytelling, I will tell a tiny little story about how this all came to be. When I was a child, it was I think in my last 2 or 3 years at primary school, I discovered 2 books in the school library. One was on witchcraft. It had lots of wonderful, what appeared to be just wonderful poems, but they were a little bit more than that. Some were very dark, some were, well, death related, cursing, and I got the feel that this was a little bit more than just poetic license. This was something else. There was something special about this, but that's a different story. The other book that I found, ooh, that was weird. Something just fell down there as I went on about this book. Ooh, scary. Yes, so the other book was a book on Egyptian mythology. It was all stories, and the imagery just blew me away, and I just had to get as much more of this as I possibly could. And both of those books changed my life completely. And obviously the Egyptian one just continued. And throughout my entire life, the stories of ancient Egypt have always been a part of my life. They're just wonderful. The mythology, everything. Those of you who are into it will know this. You know, you'll all have got the same bug. Now, I needed to eventually come back to doing something with these stories, and just over a year ago, you know, it'd be January, I think January 2019, I was at a local folk night round the pub just around the corner from me, and you know, they're great, it's all local history stuff and we have a good time. But you know, it was sort of my turn. They kept saying, have you got anything to present and, you know, to show off? And I don't know huge amounts about local history and stuff, wish I did. So I thought I'd do some Egyptian work. So first I did just told a lot of the songs of the harper, and they are a bit risque. They are quite raunchy. Egyptians were very free with their affections. because I had very little else to mess with and not taxed or whatever. So that went down really well. Very well. They all enjoyed that. Then, buoyed by that, I think the following month, so I think it was the following month, February, I gave one of my favourite stories, the story of Sekhmet and the destruction of mankind. It was so fitting for the location in the pub. If you know the story, and I'm not going to give that story today, it ends in a very fitting where we were. So that went down really well. But, you know, I'm not really a natural storyteller. Public speaking is completely different to storytelling, and I stalled many times, and I just didn't have the flow. So there was a lovely lady there, Deborah, and afterwards she said, "You've got some talent, potential talent there. You should come along to my storytelling workshop." Well, all went by. Months went by and I didn't really get round to doing it. I was rushing around all over the time. And this must have been September, I finally caught up with Deborah and joined the group. And it's been quite fun. I've already done 2 events. I think 2 events? Yes, I've done 2 events out of the 3 that the group as a whole has been doing. And I enjoyed it. It's a challenge, and as a part of learning a new skill, it's also an opportunity of me to put out the stories that inspired me to explore Comedicism. And another aspect, and now this was a crazy thing, I'm still really new to this, yet I'm always willing to put myself completely out of the comfort zone. So, when was it? It would have been the end of last year. Well, actually, well before then. November, December. And this is like 3 months in to learning storytelling. I decided to do a tour. To do full production at various venues. It's crazy. Completely scary. And I'm still not completely sure this is a good thing for me to do, but I'm going to do it, even if I fall flat on my face, because that's how I'm going to learn. So there was another aspect as well. My good friend Lilith Babylon, who's been around the pagan community for many years, died a few years back, and she used to tell me of the performances she used to do with her group, and that I thought could be interesting to combine some kind of mythology with that, and I like to have a go, but then I've seen the script and it's not really my thing, so I thought storytelling might be an option. So sort of in a way this is being inspired by Lilith and my craziness to try something completely new and make a complete idiot of myself. So let's see what happens. Feeling a little refreshed from his walk in the garden, Ra, sun god, creator of all, and the first mortal pharaoh of Egypt, began his return walk back to the throne room to listen to the afternoon petitioners. His thoughts today were unusually dark and deeply foreboding, and they drifted often back to his choice of residing as a mortal. While he feels it had left him content, the decades were increasingly leaving him with more aches and pains than he had expected. Was this really all worth it? His mood wasn't helped by spotting a fat flower, brown and wilting in the intense heat, which reminded him that all things must die. Not even his own breath of magic on the flower, which instantly restored the life and beauty, improved his mood. Finally, he returned and sat upon his throne. And looking around at the people there, he felt today really wasn't going to be much fun. His brooding, however, was brought back sharply by the hurried arrival of his son Thoth, the god of wisdom. Hurriedly pushing apart the throngs of people, Thoth reaches the feet of his father. "Father, life, prosperity, health to you. I bring word of a prophecy that has been revealed to me." Ra felt uneasy at this revelation. This was something new and not under his control. With some reluctance, Ra gestured to his son to continue. Thoth stood and looked around the room. "This prophecy I have seen. If Nut, Lady of Heaven, bears a son, he will one day rule Egypt." Silence. Ra, shocked by this prophecy, the words of his son, he knew someday he would have to eventually relinquish the throne, and this would come. But he wanted this to be under his own choice, not some other choice. This was his choice on who he would give the throne to succeed him. Flustered and thrown off balance by such a declaration, his anger built. It built and built. His face of thunder, he stands, staring hard at all in the room, daring not even to look at his own son, Thoth, who he respected. His knowledge and wisdom even far outweighed his own, but this was anger. This was pride. "Listen, all. Nut will not have any children to threaten my rule. She'll have no child on any day or night of the year. I have spoken." And with that he storms out, leaving the room. Complete silence. Silence all but for some sobbing. Faces turn to see the Lady Nut curled on the floor in the arms of her husband Geb, her body shaking with tears. No one could meet those gaze, the eyes of the Lady Nut. Thoth, though, looked with deep sadness at the distraught couple, and approaching them, he knelt down and, taking their hands in his, said, "To you I shall help, for this prophecy must be fulfilled. Ra will have an heir, and it shall be yours that shall have the throne. Through teary eyes, they both thanked him, and Thoth withdrew to his mighty halls of wisdom. Many nights he looked through scroll after scroll, looking for some way to undo the words of Ra. How could he get round this magic and break his father's curse? It certainly felt like that, for this prophecy had to be fulfilled, no matter what the cost. Finally, he remembers Ra's words specifically. Not on any day or any night of the year. Those were the key. And a plan formed. Thoth's plan, to many, might seem a little odd. It was to pay a visit to another filled with divine wisdom. Obviously not as good as and knowledgeable as Thoth, of course, because, Thoth was superb and he knew that. Everybody knew that. But he needed the magic of someone that was outside his own. And that was Khonsu, the god of the moon. He was also, conveniently, an avid gambler. And Thoth knew that to be his undoing. He visited Thoth in his dark hideaway and challenged him to a game of drafts of Senate. And obviously, Khonsu, being the gambler that he was, couldn't resist a challenge by someone of his esteemed knowledge. For what he could win himself, should he beat Thoth, would be of great importance to him. However, Khonsu was no match for Thoth. Thoth was cunning and way too good. Thoth won game after game, driving Khonsu mad. Until a point came where Khonsu thought he could win, finally. And the stakes began to grow. And grow and grow. And absolutely ludicrous what was at stake. But this was all to Thoth's game. He knew he had Khonsu ready to take the fall. Once Khonsu had placed enough light, enough moonlight on the table for 5 more days of the year, Thoth played his last piece and beat Khonsu. extra 5 days of moonlight were another 5 days to add to the existing year. And of course, these 5 days were not part of any year. And so, the magic of Ra was broken. In these 5 days and 5 nights, Nut gave birth to 5 children. Osiris, her first son, on the first day. The second day, another son, Horus the Elder. On the third day, Set. And on the fourth day, a daughter, Isis. And finally, on the fifth day, another daughter, Nephthys. At the birth of Osiris on the first day, the heaven rocked, and a voice decreed, "Lord of all has come forth into the light. Osiris the king is born." Of course, Ra was furious, as he knew his magic was broken and Nut had betrayed his word. And they all knew that Ra would take vengeance. Thoth begged Nut, "Let me hide Osiris from the wrath of Ra. Your other children shall be spared, for they have no claims to the throne. It is only your first son, Osiris, that Ra will hunt." But also, to give him company, let his sister Isis come into my care too. I shall hide them away, both, and teach them all that I have to prepare them, and to prepare Osiris in particular to be the next ruler of Egypt. Sadly, Nut had to agree, and parted with her 2 children. Thoth instructed Osiris and his sister in all his knowledge as he promised. Wisdom and magic soon filled their lives. And as the years progressed and they grew, both their powers were soon equal to Thoth. But this was not enough for Isis. She wanted more. She sought Khonsu and persuaded him to teach all he could of the mysteries of the moon and of the dark. And secretly she learned from him all that he could spare. Away from Osiris and Isis' secret hiding, the other children of Nut grew and were welcomed within Ra's court. Nephthys married Set, although unbeknown to them, Isis and Osiris also married in secret. And Ra found his love of Set. He found him great company, athletic, enthusiastic, charming, a natural leader. Eventually Ra suspected and thought, yes, perhaps I will actually let Set become my heir. He is exactly what a leader should be. Back in the hiding, things were not all well. Isis and Osiris were impatient. Often they demanded from Thoth, when will they become rulers of Egypt, as was given by the prophecy. When is our time? Both desire the throne, and was theirs right by the prophecy, and to hasten this, Isis explored ideas of her own how to end the reign of Ra. Through the wisdom that she had gained from Thoth, Isis knew the only solution was to use Ra's words and his magic against him. It was the only thing strong enough. With, too, her extra knowledge and the dark magic shown to her by Khonsu, an idea formed. Isis knew all things were made by Ra, and without him nothing can be made. This was to be Ra's undoing. Ra was known for his walks in his garden, and so she sneaked in under the cover of darkness and hid in the tall grass by a pathway that she knew Ra would be taking. And so she hid and waited an hour through the night. At dawn, Ra took his first walk of the day, and she observed his movements, totally oblivious to Ra she was. And then she saw her opportunity. He passed by where she was lying in the grass, and a drop of spittle from his mouth dropped and landed on the ground beside her. She took the damp patch of dirt, and mixing it with clay, she formed a model of a hooded cobra. And as she set it and worked the shape, she set her magic of the darkness with poison, and then left it beside the path for Ra's next visit. The next day, Ra took his walk again, as was usual, and his gaze fell upon the clay snake, instantly bringing it to life. It slid, unknown by Ra, through the grass towards him. And with his back turned, he did not see it strike. Felt it. Oh boy, did he feel it. It struck him on the foot, and the pain was intense. the magic and the poison that Isis had laced it coursed through his body. He cried to the sky. And collapsed into the ground. His children, hearing this cry, flocked towards him from the temples and from the palace. "Something has wounded me," he cried. "I don't know it. My eyes do not know it. I did not make it. Bring all before me to remove this poison from me. It burns too much." One by one, they came forward and tried their magic to withdraw the poison, but the pain grew worse each time. Thoth knew of Isis' plot because this was also a part of the prophecy, which he had kept from all. And he approached the crowd of his siblings and his father. "My father," he said, "there is only one other that may have the power to restore your health." Ross said, in his agony, "Bring this person. I must have a solution." And Thoth revealed Isis. All were in awe of her, for this goddess had now been revealed. And she approached Ra and knelt down beside him. Ra, unable through his pain to fully grasp who this person was, begged her to help. And now Isis had her chance. Ra, father of all, I am the greatest of all magic. I can heal you, but even my magic may not help. The only way I can heal you fully is if our magic merges. To do this, I must know your secret name. Even through his pain, Ra knew what she asked was something he would not willingly give to anyone. To know his secret name, to know his power, to know his name and the words that will create life. This was all that he was. No, he could never give this to anyone. But the pain, the burning, the pain. He thought I could give her some of the minor words of power, my other names. And one after one, he gave her a name. But it was not enough. Isis knew these were not the true name of Ra. Please, Ra, father of all, you must give me your true name. For he whose name of power is spoken in my charm shall live. I must have it. Ra was at the end. He could no longer bear this pain. And gripping her arm and leaning tightly in, he whispered to her, "Swear that none shall ever know this secret name of mine, save only you and your son Horus, the child you shall have with Osiris. And Horus shall rule Egypt when Osiris has passed to the west. You have my word. Isis had him, and she agreed to the oath, and her spirit and his joined. The magic was strong, the strongest even beyond what she could ever anticipate. She withdrew the poison from Ra's body, and he was healed. Ra was not the same after this. Weakened, he passed his throne on to Osiris, as the prophecy was foretold. But some were not happy at that. Set was promised the throne. And he swore he would take vengeance upon Osiris. But that is another story. We've heard of the gods, but what of mortals? This next story is one of my favourites, the tale of the doomed prince. There was once a pharaoh who for years, him and his wife wished for a son, but unfortunately they weren't blessed. They yearned for an heir to continue the reign of their dynasty. And as the years went past, they resorted to petitioning the gods, who, hearing eventually their desperate plea, felt pity and granted them their wish. At the child's birth, the 7 Hathors, who announced the ultimate fate of a newborn, declared for all the world to hear that this special child, granted by the gods, had a fate. He would die through either a crocodile, dog, or a snake. The pharaoh, of course, was saddened by this and resolved to ensure as much as his son desired, he would still be safe from such outcomes and to defy his fate. For the crocodile, he decided to ensure his son grew far from any water source. He sent his son far inland to a house with ample staff and all the luxuries of his rank secure from any external threat. The child grew, as all children do, into a really handsome young man, but alone, with only the company of his servants. One day, while on the rooftop, looking out into the desert and the deserted roads, he saw a man walking with a greyhound along the road. Having never seen such an animal before, Prince asked one of his servants what it was. The servant, carefully unsure of what his master was going to ask next, replied that this is a greyhound. It's a dog. The prince saw the joy that such an animal gave to this man, that he demanded to have one himself. The servants, still wary of the other fates that awaited their master, rapidly informed the pharaoh and asked what should they do. Pharaoh, worried that such an animal could be his downfall, said, "Give my son the smallest dog you can possibly find." However, the servants ignore this and give their master a greyhound. Their fears become nought because the boy and the dog become inseparable, playing joyfully in the house gardens, within the walls. They play every day, and the dog is always by his master's side. Everyone grows relaxed. The years pass and the prince continues his growth and his continuing yearning to be outside. On reaching manhood and feeling constrained alone in the house, he sends word to his father if he could now, being a man, go out into the world and face his fate with the gods. Reluctantly, the king has to agree. He cannot hide forever. And so, the prince leaves his home for his childhood with a chariot and his dog, and they travel out into the distant desert to see where their fate takes them. Months and months pass. The man and his dog, living off their wits in the desert, hunting game, seeing no one except each other's company. Eventually, they find themselves on the edges of Egypt's border, on the western border, at the city of Narain. Because of the solitude his life has led, he's enamoured with the huge number of people. He's just not seen so many people before. The colour, the noise, the sound, the scent. Everything assaults his senses, and he is utterly captivated by everything he encounters. The press of this people draws him to the central square, where a large crowd gathers round a tower, who high up at a lone window sits a beautiful woman who looks down upon all those below her. The prince, his gaze meets hers, and he becomes captivated by this mysterious woman. Catching one of the passer-by, the prince asks, What is this?" For he sees a variety of young men trying to climb up to this window, and he is utterly confused by this. Well, young man," so the passer-by says, "you must be new here. This woman here, this is the daughter of the prince of this city. It is his daughter is everything to this man, to our prince. And because of this, and the constant stream of suitors for her hand in marriage, he decided to let her stay in the tower, and should any man climb those walls to find her and to get to her, they shall marry her." Now, let me be on my way. And so the man passes by, The prince stands for some time watching these young men, all athletic and in fine clothes, running and jumping at the wall, trying to find a way to this woman and to their prize. The prince approaches, thinking, I can have my go. But these men, high-born, look down upon the dusty rags of this weary traveller, unaware of his true identity. Laughing and jeering at this attempt by such a poor person, not worthy, they stand by and watch the prince take his first jump. He scrambles, almost catching a small out-jutting brick that he spots, misses and falls to a crumple on the ground. These suitors laugh their head off. It is hysterically entertaining. And many jeers from the crowd, who obviously find this very entertaining themselves to watch all these idiots. The prince rubs himself down. His pride is not completely broken. And he approaches these suitors. Now he is up close. They see something in his bearing, something special, and their laughing and jeering subside, and they become embarrassed, for here is someone who is not quite as he seems. One of the boldest ones steps forward. You, stranger, welcome to this. You are of fine bearing, but you wear rags. What is your story, my friend? The prince, obviously wanting to keep his identity hidden, for he did not know the politics of the area, said, "Thank you for your kindness. I am just a traveller. I have left my home. My father has a new wife, and she is wicked to me, my stepmother. I decided to leave home with my chariot and my dog to seek my fortune." Strangely enough, such a weak story as this, his charm and charisma melts the hearts of these aristocrats, and they welcome him as a friend. And they spend the rest of the evening laughing and joking and eating and drinking. The next day, they return and the prince tries again. With careful examination prior to his jump, he knows the route he needs to take. And he scales it. And he climbs eventually through to the window of the princess. The prince and princess meet, and it is love at first sight. Obviously, such news spreads quickly through the city of Narain, and it comes to the ears of the Prince of Narain. And he asks, "Who is this man who's to become my son-in-law?" The servants are quiet and tell him is just a wandering charioteer, not a noble. The Prince of Narain is furious. How I cannot let such a lowly person marry my daughter, or I order his death as an insult to my family. The soldiers come, but the princess bars the way and says, if he is taken from me, I will throw myself from the tower and die too. The soldiers know they cannot make a move, so instead they take him to the Prince of Narain. He is asked of his identity, and again, keeping his identity hidden, he repeats what he has said to the court, the suitors, that he is a charioteer that left home because of his wicked stepmother and is searching for his fortune. Again, his charm and bearing impresses the Prince of Narain and finds him strangely comfortable company. And because his daughter obviously is in love with this man, he cannot find a reason to dispose of such a man without the upset of his daughter, and his daughter, of course, is everything to him. They settle in the palace, and the young prince is happy with his new life and his wife. However, the princess is not too happy with the dog that follows her husband everywhere. Why don't you get rid of him? You do not need such an animal, she frequently shouts at him. But at the possible risk of losing his faithful companion, the prince tells her that the 3 fates that await him, but not his origins. The princess is shocked and vows, because she loves him, she'll stay beside him and ensure those threats never come. It's not long before she is tested. For one night, a snake enters their apartment from a crack in the wall. It slithers to where the young prince sleeps. But luckily the princess spots it while she prepares for bed. Taking a long pin, she stabs it through the head before it can reach her husband. She tells him on waking, and that one of the fates has been defeated, and his love for her grows stronger. A few days later, the prince takes his dog out for another walk along the river, oblivious to the other fates, enjoying the new freedom and the new life and the fortune that has occurred. Suddenly, a burst of birds from the reeds, and the startled dog panics and bites his master. The shock and fear that his dog would attack him further, the young prince breaks into a run along the riverbank, pursued by the dog, who, unbeknown to him, was only following him because of his love for his master. The dog was gaining, and the prince was fearful, for he still knows the 2 remaining fates. The dog is gaining and gaining. His only option is to make a fateful jump into the river to save himself from the dog. And he jumps, splashes, and then he realizes his mistake. A loud splash draws his attention, and a crocodile from the other bank slides smoothly down and into the water. He's now been caught between two fates of the dog and the crocodile. What to do? He did not need to think, for his dog, recognising the threat to his master, jumped into the water and swims quickly out towards him and the crocodile. The crocodile and the dog fight violently in the water. Blood fills the river, but the prince cannot make out what is happening. And then all is quiet, and two motionless forms float to the surface. Feeling overwhelmed for the concern of his dog, he reaches out and pulls the lifeless body of his childhood friend to the riverbank. He is absolutely distraught and carries the dog home. He tells his wife that all three fates have now been cheated, and that the gods are truly with him. And finally, he is able to tell her of his true identity as prince and heir to the throne of Egypt. The prince and princess return to Thebes the next day with full military honour, pomp and ceremony, and the prince returns as the crown prince of Egypt. His father, after hearing that his son has defeated his fates, as someone with the blessing of the gods can, he openly and willingly gives up his throne to his son as the true worthy heir. And they lived happily ever after. Thank you. Bye bye.